Why are you still waiting? Why are you still asking for permission to live your own life? You feel it, don't you? That quiet frustration inside, that pull in your chest, that burning voice that whispers, "This isn't me. This isn't what I want." But still you stay. Still you hesitate. Still you shrink yourself to fit a version of life that doesn't even belong to you. You already know what you want. You already know what makes your heart beat faster. But instead of moving toward it, you freeze. You think about them. What will they think? What will they say? Will they laugh? Will they judge? Let's be honest. You're not stuck because of your circumstances. You're stuck because of your mindset. Because somewhere along the way, you started to believe that your life belongs to other people's opinions. That before you speak, before you act, before you dream, you have to get approval from a world that doesn't even know who you really are. And here's the part no one tells you. Those invisible chains holding you back, they're not real. They were built by fear, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of standing alone. But what if I told you those chains only exist because you believe in them? You see, we've been trained since childhood to obey, not just rules, but expectations. Be like this, act like that, don't speak too loud, don't dream too big, don't want too much, and slowly you begin to lose yourself just to be liked, just to be accepted, just to not be seen as too different. But deep down, different is exactly what you are. And that difference, that's your power. Still, most people won't tell you that. They'll say, be realistic. They'll say, stay in your lane. Because when you rise, it threatens their comfort. But listen closely. You weren't made to live small. You weren't born to follow a script someone else wrote for you. You were born with a voice, with fire, with purpose. You were made to stand out, to be the exception, to chase something that makes your soul feel alive. Yet here you are, walking on eggshells, hiding the most powerful parts of yourself, all because of people who are just as lost as you, people who don't pay your bills, people who won't be at your funeral, people who won't feel the weight of your regrets. So why are you letting them steer your life? It's time to face something hard but true. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to give you a permission slip to live your dreams. That permission, that's yours to give. And the moment you do, everything changes. You stop living small. You stop explaining yourself. You stop shrinking to fit in. And you finally start becoming you. Because here's the truth, this life, it goes by fast. And you don't get a second one. So if you don't do what you want now, if you don't chase what sets your heart on fire, if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect approval, the perfect plan, you will wake up one day and realize that the life you lived was never really yours, just a performance. For people who forgot about you the moment you stopped entertaining them. Don't let that happen. Don't let your dreams die inside of you because someone else didn't understand them. They don't need to, only you do. So before you go back to sleepwalking through life, ask yourself, what are you really afraid of? What's truly stopping you? Because the chains you feel, they're not from the world, they're from within. And the key to breaking free has always been in your hands. If you're ready to finally take your life back, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, then stay with this video. Because by the end, you'll no longer be asking, what will they think? You'll be saying, I did it for me. And I don't regret a thing. Stay until the end. The version of you who's free, fearless, and finally alive is waiting. You weren't born afraid. That fear, the one that holds your voice down, that makes you second guess your choices, that tells you to play it safe, that was taught. It was whispered into you, slowly, quietly, over time, by people who gave up on their own dreams, by systems that profit when you stay small, by voices that said, be good, not great. Be safe, not bold. Be liked, not real. And you listened, not because you were weak, but because that's what we're trained to do. From the moment we enter the world, we're handed invisible rules. Smile when you don't feel like it. Say yes when your heart screams no. Sit still. Stay quiet. Don't question. Don't stand out. That's how society works. It doesn't always shout. It whispers. It trains you to care more about what others think of you than what you think of you. It wraps you in invisible pressure until you forget who you really are. And before you know it, you're not living. you're performing. You measure your life in likes, in approval, in applause. You move through your days checking if you're acceptable, not if you're fulfilled. You say things that feel fake. You laugh when it's not funny. You say, "I'm fine," when you're anything but. And it all feels normal, because everyone else is doing the same thing. Everyone is wearing masks, playing roles, hiding the truth. Everyone's scared to be real. But here's the problem: when you spend your life trying to be who others want, you forget how to be you. You forget how to listen to your own voice. You silence your ideas. You bury your dreams so deep that they stop even making noise. And one day, you wake up in a life that feels empty, a job you don't love, people who don't see you, a routine that suffocates you, and you wonder, how did I get here? You got there because you were trained to follow, not your heart, not your purpose, but the crowd. And the crowd is afraid. The crowd plays it safe. The crowd judges anyone who dares to walk a different path. But hear this clearly: most people aren't living, they're surviving. They're going through the motions. They traded their truth for comfort, their fire for approval. And when you start to break free, when you choose something different, they'll feel uncomfortable, because your courage reminds them of their fear. Your freedom reminds them of their prison. That's why people criticize dreamers. That's why they mock change. That's why they resist difference. Not because you're wrong, but because you remind them of everything they gave up on. But you don't have to carry their fear. You don't have to walk their path. You don't have to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You can choose something else. You can choose to be real, even when it's uncomfortable. You can choose to speak, even when your voice shakes. You can choose to take up space, even when they try to silence you. Because this life, this one chance, wasn't given to you so you could be a copy of someone else. It was given to you to live with power, with meaning, with honesty. And honesty begins with asking yourself, whose voice is guiding my choices? Whose expectations am I still trying to meet? Whose approval am I chasing? And why does it matter so much? You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe the world a version of yourself that feels fake. You don't owe your life to other people's comfort zones. You owe yourself the truth. You owe yourself a life that feels like yours. And yes, people might leave. People might talk. People might not understand. But that's not your burden. Their fear is not your weight to carry. Because at the end of it all, it's not their name on your life. It's yours. And when it's all over, when the noise fades and the lights go out, the only question that will matter is this: did I live true to myself, or did I just try to please everyone else? The pressure will always be there. But you were built to rise above it. You were made to stand alone if needed, to choose your path, to reclaim your voice. Not tomorrow. Not when it's easy. Now, you know what holds most people back? It's not their lack of talent, not their resources, not even failure. It's judgment. The fear of being seen and misunderstood, the fear of being laughed at, criticized, or rejected. That fear becomes a prison, a mental cage. And most don't even realize they're locked inside. They hesitate before speaking their truth. They hide their creativity. They walk a smaller path, not because they want it, but because they're terrified of what others might say. But here's the truth: most people never hear judgment is inevitable. No matter what you do, someone will always have something to say. Too loud, too quiet, too ambitious, not ambitious enough, too different, too ordinary. It never ends. And if you live your life trying to dodge every opinion, you'll never move forward. You'll be frozen, stuck between who you are and who you're pretending to be. Think about this. How many ideas have you buried? How many dreams have you shelved? Not because they were impossible, but because you imagined someone rolling their eyes. That imaginary judgment has stopped more lives than real obstacles ever have. You've been taught to fear embarrassment, to avoid risk, to protect your image like it's more important than your soul. But image fades, and the only thing worse than being judged is judging yourself later for not trying. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to stop letting fear make your decisions. Because the harsh truth is this: most of the people you're afraid of don't even know you. They don't understand your journey. They don't carry your pain. They don't lose sleep over your dreams. So why give their opinions the power to shape your future? There's a reason why so many stay in the crowd, because standing alone takes courage. Being seen as different takes backbone. Choosing your own path means you'll face criticism, not because you're wrong, but because you dare to be visible. And visibility makes people uncomfortable, especially those who've hidden their true selves for years. You become a mirror, a reminder of what they could have been if they'd been brave enough. That's why they talk. That's why they mock. That's why they try to bring you back down. But their noise doesn't define your value. Their opinions don't determine your worth, and their approval isn't the key to your future. Only you hold that. So when fear creeps in, and it will, remember this judgment is just a test of how much you're willing to be yourself, even when the world doesn't clap, even when they question, whisper, or walk away. And that test, it separates those who live freely from those who live quietly, trapped behind masks. You weren't made to fit into their comfort. You were made to grow, and growth never happens in silence. It happens when you step into the light, flaws and all, and say, "This is who I am. This is what I believe in." Some won't get it. Some will walk away. Let them. Because what's meant for you will never require you to hide, shrink, or pretend. Your freedom begins the moment you stop chasing their approval. Your power returns the second you say, "I don't need your permission to be me." And the best part, once you stop fearing judgment, you start living for real. You laugh louder. You speak clearer. You take bolder steps. You become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because their opinions no longer hold weight. You finally understand you were never here to impress. You were here to express, to leave something behind that's real. Not polished, not perfect, just authentic. And authenticity always outlives judgment. So stand tall, be seen, speak up, do the thing. Even if they stare, even if they talk, because they will talk no matter what. But one day, they'll stop, and what will be left is the life you chose. Not for them, not to prove anything, but because you finally realized your soul was never built to be quiet. Here's something that no one tells you when you're growing up. Most of the people you're afraid of, the ones you think are watching you, judging you, waiting for you to fail, they're not. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. That's the truth. People are too wrapped up in their own insecurities, their own fears, their own need for approval to spend much time focusing on yours. It feels like the world is watching your every move. But in reality, they glance for a second and go back to worrying about how they look, what they sound like, what they're missing. And yet you carry this heavy weight. You second guess your words. You hesitate before trying. You kill your ideas before they even have a chance to breathe. All because of a crowd that's not even paying attention. This is one of the biggest lies your mind can trap you in. That you are being judged 24/7. That people are dissecting your every move. That one mistake will ruin how others see you forever. But the truth is simple. People forget fast. They forget your awkward moments. They forget your mistakes. They move on, not because they don't care, but because they have their own lives to deal with. Your fears of being seen, they are far louder in your mind than in anyone else's. So ask yourself, how many times have you stopped yourself from doing something you loved just because you imagined someone laughing? How many times have you played small, stayed quiet, walked away? Not because you couldn't, but because you thought someone might think something. That's not living. That's surviving inside a story that was never real. You see, most people are living in a silent panic, worried about how they're being perceived, trying to impress, trying to belong, trying to be accepted by others who are also pretending. It's a cycle of fear. Everyone's acting for everyone else, but no one is really paying attention. So what happens when you stop performing? What happens when you decide to live for you? You become free, not because you're no longer afraid, but because you realize the fear was never real. You understand that your time here is short, and every second you spend trying to impress strangers is a second stolen from your true self. It's time to stop shrinking for people who aren't even looking. It's time to stop holding your breath, waiting for applause that never comes. It's time to stop making decisions based on imaginary opinions. Because here's what actually happens when you step into who you really are. The right people show up. The right energy finds you. You stop attracting noise and start attracting truth. You don't need the whole world to get you. You don't need a standing ovation, you need alignment, peace, clarity. And that only comes when you stop performing and start living. Your dream, it doesn't need approval. Your path, it doesn't need validation. It only needs you to believe in it enough to start walking. So if you've been holding back, if you've been waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to be who you are, this is it. Here's your permission. Not from the world, from yourself. Because no one is watching the way you think they are, and if they are, let them. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them assume while you live, while you grow, while you build a life that means something. The more you let go of that imagined spotlight, the brighter you shine for real. And the moment you stop trying to be perfect in front of people who don't even matter, that's the moment you start becoming powerful beyond measure. So take the step. Say the thing. Build the dream, even if they look, even if they laugh, because they'll forget by tomorrow. But you won't. You'll remember every time you held yourself back. You'll remember every time you said no when your heart screamed yes. You'll remember every chance you didn't take because of people who forgot your name the second you disappeared. That kind of regret, it runs deep. But the kind of life that's built when you stop caring about being watched, that life is yours. And it's waiting. No one's watching. So live like it. You know what hurts more than being judged? Regret. The kind of regret that doesn't go away. The kind that whispers to you late at night when the world is quiet and you're left alone with your thoughts. The kind that asks, what if I had tried? What if I had spoken up? What if I had lived for myself instead of for everyone else? You can ignore judgment. You can outgrow criticism. But regret follows you. It lingers. It settles into your bones. Because deep down, you know when you've betrayed yourself. You know when you've made choices that didn't align with your heart. And no amount of praise, comfort, or approval can cover up the pain of knowing you walked away from what was truly meant for you. We've all done it. We've all stayed quiet when we should have spoken. We've all played small because it felt safer. We've all said, maybe later, to a dream that needed us now. But how many more moments are you willing to let pass? How many more excuses are you going to make just to avoid being uncomfortable? The truth is, discomfort is temporary. That moment of awkwardness, that moment of being misunderstood, it fades. People move on. The world forgets. But you won't forget the chances you didn't take. You won't forget the art you never created, the risks you never took, the conversations you avoided, the bold decisions you talked yourself out of. You'll carry that weight because that's how regret works. It doesn't scream, it whispers, it waits. It shows up when you least expect it. At birthdays, at job interviews, at family dinners, at random quiet mornings, and it asks you, why didn't you choose yourself? Regret becomes the voice of a life you could have lived, but didn't. And it speaks louder than any critic ever could. That's what fear doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you how heavy it is to walk around with an unlived life. It doesn't tell you that staying safe costs more than failing ever will. It doesn't tell you that one day, the pain of staying the same becomes far greater than the fear of changing. So here's the question. What's really scarier? Them laughing for a moment, or you wondering for the rest of your life what could have been? Too many people reach the end and realize they never really lived. They followed the rules. They kept their head down. They stayed inside the lines. And in doing so, they missed everything that made life worth living. Because life doesn't reward perfection. It rewards boldness. It rewards truth. It rewards the people who show up, messy, scared, uncertain, but still show up. Every dream you ignore becomes a wound. Every time you betray your instincts, you weaken your confidence. Every time you let someone else's opinion override your voice, you make yourself smaller. But you're not here to live a small life. You're not here to pass time. You're here to build, to feel, to experience, to impact. And that means you'll be criticized. That means you'll be doubted. That means people will misunderstand you. So what? Let them. Because they won't be there when you're 70 looking back. They won't be there when the regret catches up. Only you will. And the only thing that will matter then is this: did you choose your fear or did you choose your future? Most people choose fear. They trade their dreams for comfort, their passion for predictability, their truth for acceptance. But not you. Not anymore. You don't have to live with regret. You don't have to keep silencing your voice. You don't have to spend another year wishing you were brave enough. You are brave enough. You just forgot. And now, it's time to remember, because the risk of doing what you love is real. But the pain of never trying, that pain never leaves. So step into the fear. Take the shot. Speak the words. Start the thing. Even if it's messy. Even if it's uncertain. Because regret doesn't come from failing. Regret comes from never knowing. You have one life, one shot. Don't waste it trying to avoid the noise. Live loud. Live true. So when it's all said and done, you don't just leave behind a name, you leave behind a legacy of someone who chose courage over comfort. Every single time, you know exactly what you want. Even if you pretend you don't, even if you try to silence it, even if you bury it under distractions, routines, and responsibilities, it's still there. That quiet voice inside you, it's not random, it's not noise, it's you. The real you, trying to be heard. You felt it in the still moments. Late at night when the world slows down, when the notifications stop, when the distractions fade, when it's just you and your thoughts, that's when the voice gets louder. And it doesn't beg, it doesn't scream, it whispers. And says things like, "This isn't who I'm meant to be. There's more for me than this. I know I was made for something greater." But instead of listening, you drown it out, you scroll, you binge, you stay busy. Because facing it means making a choice. It means confronting the truth that you're not living in alignment with who you really are. And that truth is uncomfortable. It means admitting that the job you go to every day drains you, that the people you surround yourself with don't challenge you, that the path you're on was never truly yours. It was handed to you, expected of you, or chosen out of fear. But here's the thing about the inner voice. It doesn't go away. No matter how long you ignore it, it waits. It stays patient, and it keeps showing up in your restlessness, in your boredom, in your frustration. You call it stress. You call it burnout. You call it just life. But really, it's your soul starving. Starving for purpose. Starving for meaning. Starving to feel alive again. You weren't made to just exist. You weren't made to go through the motions, to check boxes, to simply get through each day. You were made to create, to feel deeply, to build something with your life that reflects who you really are. That inner voice. It's your map. It's not wrong. It's not crazy. It's not unrealistic. It's truth. And the longer you silence it, the louder regret becomes. Because here's what you need to understand. The voice doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in feeling. That spark you get when you imagine doing something bold. That fire in your chest when you think about changing your path. That energy you feel when you talk about your passion, even if no one else gets it. That's not fantasy. That's direction. Your heart already knows what's right. Your mind is just scared. And of course it is. Because choosing yourself means risking judgment. It means breaking comfort. It means leaving behind the familiar. It means stepping into the unknown. But what's the cost of ignoring it? Another year pretending. Another month just getting by. Another day playing a role that doesn't fit. Another version of you that the world gets to see while the real you hides in silence. That's not life. That's survival. And deep down, you know the difference. You feel it when you lie to yourself. You feel it when you say, "I'm fine," with a fake smile. You feel it when you celebrate things you don't care about just because others expect you to. That voice keeps calling you back, not to shame you, not to push you, but to remind you that you still have time. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're not too lost. You're just one choice away from getting back to who you were meant to be. And no, it won't be easy. Choosing your path never is. You'll lose some people. You'll face uncertainty. You'll have moments where fear tries to pull you back. But every time you honor that voice, you get stronger. You become lighter. You start feeling like yourself again. That's the reward. That's the freedom. That's what peace actually feels like. Not pretending, not performing, but waking up every day knowing you're walking the right road. Even if it's hard, even if it's slow, even if no one claps. So stop waiting for clarity to come from the outside. It's been inside you all along. Start listening. Because that voice, it's not a fantasy. It's not a distraction. It's the most honest part of you. And it's tired of being ignored. At some point, you have to stop asking for permission. Permission to be who you are. Permission to take the path no one understands. Permission to live a life that actually feels like yours. Because the truth is, no one's coming to hand it to you. Not your family, not your friends, not society. If anything, they'll try to hand you a rule book, a checklist, a timeline. They'll tell you how to live. What success should look like. When to settle. When to speak. When to stop dreaming. And most people, they follow it. Not because they agree with it, but because it's easier. It's safer to live by someone else's rules than to face the fear of writing your own. But here's the question that changes everything. Whose life are you living? Seriously, ask yourself that. When you wake up, when you go to work, when you make decisions, are you doing it for you? Or are you still trying to meet expectations you never agreed to? Are you chasing a version of success you didn't choose? Are you afraid to disappoint people who don't even know the real you? Because if the answer is yes, then you're not living. You're performing. And life is not a stage. It's not a script someone else writes for you. It's not a story you're supposed to follow blindly. It's your creation, your canvas, your design, your choice. And that means you have the power right now to rewrite the rules. Rules like you have to go to school, get a degree, work a job you don't love just to survive. No, you can build something that sets your soul on fire. You have to settle down by a certain age, have it all figured out, look like everyone else. No, you can take your time. You can grow at your own pace. You can look like no one else. You can't change careers now. You can't start over. You can't take risks. You're too far in. No, you can pivot at any moment. Start again, reinvent yourself, you can evolve, because the only thing stopping you is the belief that you can't. But who gave you that belief? Where did you learn that your life had to follow their rules? Most of the limits in your mind were planted there, conditioned, taught, repeated. But that doesn't make them true. You were born with choice, with creativity, with the ability to shape your own path. That's your gift. And most people never use it. They trade it for comfort, for routine, for something that looks good from the outside, but feels empty on the inside. But that emptiness, that quiet dissatisfaction, that's your soul reminding you, this isn't it. You weren't born to fit in. You were born to break patterns, to question the script, to build a life that reflects your truth, even if no one understands it, even if they doubt you, even if they call it crazy, because what they call crazy today becomes freedom tomorrow, becomes peace, becomes the life you were always meant to live. You just have to stop waiting for their green light and start giving yourself your own. This is your life. No one else has to live it. No one else has to feel your regret. No one else has to carry your dreams. So why let anyone else hold the pen? You don't need approval to be happy. You don't need validation to feel enough. You don't need permission to be free. You just need courage to take that first step, to say no when it doesn't feel right, to say yes to what sets your soul on fire. You are allowed to redefine success. You are allowed to choose peace over pressure. You are allowed to walk away from anything that dims your light. And the moment you realize that, you become unstoppable. Because when you stop living by rules that were never meant for you, you finally begin to live by truth. And that truth is simple. This is your life. You make the rules, so make them count.